Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I'm coming to you live from our studio in Lagos, the economic capital of Nigeria. I am Yinka Odumakin, and here are the top stories at this hour. Police operatives rescue at least 15 people kidnapped by gunmen in Nigeria's northern state of Kaduna. New rounds of talks aimed at resolving the election impasse in Somalia kicks off in the capital, Mogadishu. The Southern African Development Community seeks arrest of those behind attacks in Mozambique's northernmost province of Cabo Delgado. We'll bring you all the details shortly. We begin the news in Nigeria, where at least 15 people kidnapped by gunmen in Nigeria's northwestern state of Kaduna have regained their freedom. The state's Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, says the victims were rescued by police operatives at different locations in the Chikun local government area of the state. 3 women were amongst the rescued victims and had spent 4 months in the kidnappers' den after being abducted on the 18th of November 2020. A new round of talks aimed at resolving the election impasse in Somalia has kicked off today in the capital, Mogadishu. President Mohamed Fajamo has officially opened the consultative meeting, bringing together all leaders of the 5 federal member states to help resolve the issue which has delayed elections. The meeting will finalize implementation of the electoral model, building on the work of the technical committee, which met in the Baidwa region in the southwest region on February 15th to 17th. A major concern is the latest spate of attacks by Al-Shabaab militants who are determined to disrupt the national polls in order to reassert their influence. And back in West Africa, Senegal is to open a consulate in Western Sahara on Monday, joining other African and Arab countries in supporting Morocco's claim to the disputed territory. The consulate will be opened by the Moroccan and Senegalese foreign ministers in the Atlantic city of Dakhla, making Senegal the 22nd nation to establish a diplomatic mission in the territory. The Algerian-backed Polisario Front seeks independence for Western Sahara, a vast desert region held by Morocco since Spain withdrew in 1975. Morocco has long sought international recognition of its claim to the region it calls its southern province. A Southern African Development Community, SADC, has called for the arrest of the terrorists behind the attacks in Mozambique's northernmost province of Cabo Delgado. The regional bloc also expressed concerns about the lives and welfare of the residents who continue to suffer from atrocious, brutal and indiscriminate assaults. Botswana President Mogwetsi Masisi, who is also chairperson of the SADC organ on politics, defense and security, today expressed the bloc's concerns in a statement. Masisi said the attacks are an affront to peace and security, not only in Mozambique, but also in the region and the international community as a whole. And now to the northern coast of Africa, the last group of ships stranded due to the grounding of the massive container ship, the Ever Given, is in the Suez Canal, are all expected to cross the waterway today. In a statement, chairman of the Suez Canal Authority, Osama Rabi, said the remaining 61 ships, in addition to newly arrived 24 vessels, will pass through the canal on Saturday. It stressed that the work has been ongoing to ensure that all stranded ships across the canal move. On the 23rd of March, the 400-meter long and 59-meter wide Panama flag vessel stuck and blocked the vital waterway after it lost its ability to steer amidst massive winds and a sandstorm. Meanwhile, Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia are resuming negotiations on the filling and operation of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam after a 2-month halt. The technical committee meetings today were held under the invitation of the African Union, while ministerial meetings will start on Sunday. Ethiopia's Minister of Water, Irrigation and Energy, Celeste Bekele, says negotiations will resume with the participation of the foreign ministers and the ministers of water and energy affairs from the three countries. The construction of the dam, which began in 2011, is considered to be one of Egypt's most serious water issues. You're watching News Central now. Coming up on the news, COVID-19 claims another high-profile Nigerian, the National Publicity Secretary of the Yoruba Social Cultural Organization, Afenifere, Yinka Odumakin. We'll bring you details of this and more when we return. Welcome back. Earlier, we told you that 15 people kidnapped by gunmen in Nigeria's northwestern state of Kaduna have been rescued by authorities. They regained their freedom today at different locations in the Chikun local government area of the state. Joining me now is the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Aruwan. Good evening to you, Mr. Honorable Commissioner.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. And good news on the rescue of these kidnapped victims. Could you put us through how it was achieved?
Well, for security reasons, we like to keep all our cards close to our chest.
But would you say that no ransom was paid?
I can authoritatively confirm to you that no ransom was paid. The police, in an operational feedback, informed Kaduna State government how the victims were rescued in two locations in Chikun local government area of the state, which we have highlighted in our press statement.
Now, any news on the students of the School of Forestry Mechanization that were kidnapped a few weeks ago?
Well, I would still not want to speak on that because efforts are in place. And like I said, we like to keep our cards close to our chest for operational reasons.
Understandable.
We don't undermine efforts that is in place.
Understandable, Honorable Commissioner. Now, how would you describe the level of intelligence gathering in the state in the wake of recent kidnappings and abductions, and what is the state doing to better secure residents of Kaduna?
Well, I think it's important I clarify this to you. Why you are hearing a lot about kidnapping and killing in Kaduna State is because the state government is forthcoming with security updates. But I want to assure you that we have a viable intelligence gathering method or methodology on the ground. And beyond cases of citizens that are being kidnapped, I want to assure you there are more that are being tracked as a result of a viable intelligence gathering and interagency collaboration that we have on the ground in the state. So I will say that we have a viable intelligence gathering on the ground, and I will not want to say more about it, but I want to assure you that we also have a 24-hour operations room. This operations room will receive information from citizens in and around the state. It's a 2-7 operations rule. Every information we receive, the information is processed to check its authenticity, and as well shared with all security agencies for immediate action. This is what we are doing. This is one of the means of generating intelligence in our state, and we're making progress with the operations. So, aside from other intelligence sources and other means that are being put in place by security agents.
Now, from what you've said, Honourable Commissioner, it seems the Kaduna State government is on top of the situation. Finally, what can ordinary citizens and residents of Kaduna State do to support government's efforts in ending abductions and kidnappings as model citizens?
Well, what is important is collaboration. Like I said, we have operations room, and this operations room is operating 24 hours. And we have emergency numbers. Once you notice an unusual movement, once you see something that is unusual, citizens can easily get across to the operations room. When you are calling the operations room, you don't need to say your name, you don't need to give your identity. What you need to do is for you to give information. Once you give information, leave that to us. We will know how to go about it. And we've been doing this, and we've been getting results out of it. Because some citizens will complain that they will not want to give a report to security agency physically. Or they usually complain that their identity is compromised. So it is against the backdrop of that we set up the operations room. And like I explained to you, the operations room is making progress as far as issue of security is concerned in Kaduna State.
Honourable Commissioner, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for joining us at News Central Now. We appreciate your insight.
You're welcome.
Kaduna State Commissioner of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Aruwan. And now to our continued coverage of the coronavirus pandemic across Africa. The African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, says the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Africa have surpassed 4.25 million as of Saturday. The Africa CDC said the death toll stands at 113,429, while over 3.8 million patients across the continent have recovered from the disease. According to the Africa CDC, South Africa has lost 52,964 lives to COVID-19, the most amongst African countries, followed by Egypt at 12,084 and Morocco at 8,835. Southern Africa is the most affected region in terms of confirmed cases, followed by the Northern African and East African regions. South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt and Ethiopia account for about 65% of all cases reported in Africa. Meanwhile, COVID-19 appears to have claimed another high-profile Nigerian, the National Publicity Secretary of the Yoruba Social Cultural Organization, Afenifere, Mr. Yinka Odumakin. Odumakin was a public analyst, activist and politician, reportedly died in Lagos this morning. The late activist's wife, Dr. Joy Odumakin, said the sad event happened at the intensive care unit of the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, where he was being managed for respiratory issues due to complications from COVID-19, which he had recovered from about a week ago. She said a big part of her is gone, while describing him as an irreplaceable soulmate. Since its discovery in Wuhan, China in late 2019, The African continent has witnessed at least 3 million cases of coronavirus disease with a death toll of 100,000. However, there are many that are skeptical about these statistics and would rather believe that the pandemic is a global conspiracy. In Nigeria, several high-profile personalities have died of the virus, but celebrity comedian Ali Baba Akpobome is one of the survivors. He spoke to News Central's Mary Chinda on the reality of COVID-19.
My breathing dropped to 70-something, and you had a baseline of 95%. So I wasn't getting enough oxygen in. I had a sore throat that was hampering breathing, and the sore throat had infected my my breathing tract, and I also had a fever and weakness, then some feverish feelings and all of that. Didn't have a cough, but I had a headache. And all of these just pointed to the fact that I needed medical attention. I needed medical attention. So I called a doctor friend, and he said, oh, he'll come by and do a test for me. So he came by and did a test. 2 days later, he called and said I was positive. And so for about like 2-3 days, I was taking medication, trying to take care of it. But I think my oxygen level was the greatest pointer to the fact that I needed to go to the isolation center. And from the time I got there and they checked my oxygen level, I was put on an oxygen device straight. I consumed about 9 cylinders altogether in a spate of 2 weeks while I was in isolation. I had my Christmas and New Year there.
The comedian, who has since received the COVID-19 vaccine, is quick to dispel rumors that the disease is a hoax and encourages Africans to disregard every conspiracy theory about the vaccine.
Conspiracy theories of, it's 666, by the injection. Have you seen the injection? It's fluid. So that fluid puts a SIM card inside your body. The fluid. No, I think that for some of them who are in that mindset, with that mindset of COVID, the vaccination is wrong, I think that they need to rethink everything. Like, if there's really no COVID, you think America will let 500,000 people die? You think Abakari will die? You think the man that was in Ogun State, I was in Oyo State, will die because somebody feels like it's a lie, it's a hoax? No, I think there were just some propaganda circles that believed that it was best to push the story that is not true. And from what we're seeing now, a lot of the people who said there was no COVID are taking vaccinations.
You're watching News Central now. Coming up on the news, police officer dies following U.S. Capitol complex attack. More on this when we return. Join us again. An attack at the United States Capitol complex in Washington, D.C. has left one police officer dead and another in hospital with injuries. Police say a car crashed into a security barrier before the driver lunged towards the officers with a knife. The officers opened fire and the suspect was shot dead. Law enforcement sources involved in the investigation say the suspect in the attack was 25-year-old Noah Green from Indiana. U.S. Capitol Police Acting Chief Yogananda Pittman asked the public to keep officers and their families in their prayers. Business federal lawmakers in Nigeria have criticized the management of the federal capital's internal revenue generating agency for non-performance during an investigative committee sit-in. The senators questioned several clauses in an agreement signed by the agency, with the Federal Inland Revenue Service demanding an explanation for the suspicious payments. They warned that severe action will be taken against the management of the agency.
We say the country is poor, we're looking for money. And then those people that are reposed with the responsibility to do the needful are taking it for granted. Giving us stock. Most of us here, some of us are chartered accountants here, financial experts. This is enough to indict FCT IRS. This is enough to indict you. And in a decent society, as a boss, honestly, you will tender your resignation and go.
And in sports, Nigeria and Leicester City forward Kelechi Iheanacho has signed a new deal to keep him at the club until 2024. The 24-year-old scored 7 times in his last 4 appearances for the Foxes and was named the Premier League Player of the month of March. The Nigerian international joined the Foxes from Manchester City in August 2017 and has gone on to feature for the Foxes 117 times in all competition, scoring 32 goals. He made 46 appearances for the Citizens in all competitions, finding the net 12 times before signing for Leicester City in August 2017. Meanwhile, Manchester City moved to within 4 wins of the Premier League title as 2 second-half goals saw off third place Leicester City. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's bring you a recap of our top stories. Officials say at least 15 people kidnapped by gunmen in Nigeria's northern state of Kaduna have regained their freedom. A new round of talks aimed at resolving the electoral impasse in Somalia has kicked off today in the capital, Mogadishu. And we told you that the Southern African Development Community has called for the arrest of the terrorists behind the attacks in Mozambique's northernmost province of Cabo Delgado. Remember to follow us on social media. We at News Central TV. You can also catch up with our news and programs. Just download the News Central TV mobile app on Play Store and iOS. You can also watch us live at StarTimes channel 274. Many thanks for watching. I am Yinka Odumakin.